This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Good evening and happy Fantopia Friday. I am Erica Lukes. Always happy to join you and see the usual suspects in chat. I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Northern UFOs for always helping me get the word out about the show, getting it uploaded to YouTube and all of that good stuff. He supports the show, and it really means a lot to me. I also want to take the opportunity to say hello to Joe and Doug Dununder, Amy, Santa. We've got new people that are hearing about the show. You guys rock. We need to get good information out there. And it is with a little bit of sadness tonight that I am here. Tonight would have been the night that I was going to be headed to Oklahoma to retrieve the Elaine Douglas files. If you don't know about Elaine Douglas, she was a feisty, spirited, intelligent, driven person, and you either loved her or you hated her. You had a strong opinion about her because she was a strong, independent woman. She researched UFOs for most of her adult life. She died back on January 27th, 2014 in Moab, Utah, and right in this time frame, I became Utah State Director, trying to rebuild a chapter that was fractured after her firing from MUFON. And she ended up dying in Moab, from what I understand, by herself. She had cancer and did not have the ability to have insurance. So that was a very sad end to a spirited, wonderful life that I was hoping to preserve. She was just avid about her abduction research. She held a master's degree from MIT in military policy, of all things. And she was state director for Utah MUFON for 12 years, and she also was the state director for Washington, D.C. MUFON. She was one of the 4 state directors and 2 assistant state directors who were purged, quote-unquote, fired, quote-unquote, I'm not sure how you get fired from a volunteer position, but it happened. And so she decided that she really wanted to reform MUFON, to make changes that would offer more transparency and to create more protection for witnesses. She was deeply concerned that there was a third party buying data with witnesses' names on them, and it could potentially be given to the military. That was very, like I said, deeply concerning for her, with good reason. And I think that I know that she was doing the best that she could with all of this. She had a lot of things, a lot of fights going on. And so I wanted to bring on tonight people that knew her, that were touched by her work. And so I've got 4 people on tonight. The first person is one of my friends, author, just a really beautiful human being, Mike Cleland, the owl guy, who has researched abductions. He has a really one of the best interviews that I've heard with Elaine Douglas. And so I will give you the website. When I was looking at this website and looking at, right after Mike, and welcome to the show, but I was looking at your tribute to Elaine when you were informing people that she had passed away. And I scrolled down and I looked at some of the comments. And here's a comment that I have to read because it touches my heart for multiple reasons. It says, wow, my condolences to Elaine's family and friends. I was not aware that she was sick. I've known Elaine intermittently through MUFON and new abduction work for quite a few years. She's been a delight, a hard worker, a hard-nosed advocate. We often disagreed on many aspects of ufology, MUFON politics, etc. Yet in all that, I will always have total respect and admiration for who she was and what she did. I remember her saying to me once, Craig, I really like you. You won't do a bleeping thing, but I really like you. It was quips like that that made her so delightfully enduring. So long, Elaine, you will be dearly missed. And that was from my friend who passed away, Craig Lang. So I saw that and I just was like, oh my gosh, that really touched my heart. But Mike, tell us about how you first met Elaine.
You know, I'm not actually sure how I first met Elaine. I think she did an interview. This is going back, good grief, maybe a decade ago. Karen Dolan had a radio show. She had a paranormal radio show on a network run by Joe Montaldo out of New Orleans. And I'm pretty sure it was on that show. And I think there was kind of a ladies in ufology kind of thing. And I heard her and I knew she was from Utah and I knew she was an abduction researcher. And I think I just called her up. I think I just picked up the phone and called her up. I was kind of at a certain chapter in my life. I was just, you know, I had no boundaries. I was just like, I want to talk to someone. I'm going to call them up. So I called her up. We talked on the phone, I think a couple of times. And then I was living in the West at the time. I'm living in the East right now. I'm in New York State. And I would drive around. I'd often go through Moab. So at one point I just drove through and I said, hey, can I come and by and meet you? And it was funny because she had a tree she needed planting in the yard. And she had a cat named Pip. And so that's how I met her. I was like, saw her in the yard and she's like, and she was, I mean, it was funny. She is I should be careful what I say. What your first impression is, my first impression was very striking. She was not very tall. She had flaming red hair and all poofed up and very, very big glasses. And when she looked right at you, it made her eyes look very, very, very big. So she was smart and sassy and fast talking. And she basically said, I need this tree in the ground. And I'm like, great, you got a shovel. So I sat out there and we did a little yard work. And basically she needed me to dig a big hole. So I got out of the car and we talked in the yard and I dug a big hole. And it was wonderful because this is like a life lesson for people. She was extremely clear on how she wanted the hole, right? So you dig a hole for someone and you kind of like, well, how do you want the hole? And she was like, she actually drew it on a piece of paper. Oh. This is how I want the hole. And it was basically like, 18 inches deep by this much wide and with this kind of, I was like, great. I did a lot of illustration work and that's what you want. You want someone to say, this is exactly what I need. And I was like, perfect, no problem. So we chatted out there in the yard and then I went in. And she made a lemon cake. So that was my first introduction. We sat and ate lemon cake. It was a little cake that she had just made. So this turned back the clock. I feel like I'm a very, very, I still kind of scatterbrained in many, many ways, but I feel like I'm much more grounded now than I would have been at that chapter in my life. And I was dealing with what I've come to call the abduction issue. That is a tough thing to come to terms with. And I was in the darkest point at that point. So here's an abduction researcher and there was not I should be careful how I say this. And I appreciated it, what I'm about to say. She was very straight, right? She didn't mince words. She went right to the heart of the matter. Other people are very, very nuanced and very, very sort of like they'll sort of wallowing in compassion, which is wonderful, but that's not how she was. And so she sort of gave it to me straight. And we must have talked for 4 or 5 hours at her kitchen table there. So that was how I met her.
And that is such a great story. I mean, I am saddened that I never had the chance to meet her, but
you might have dug a hole in her yard if you ever.
Oh dear. Well, you know what? I'm sure she wouldn't have approved of my hole diggings because it's like those skills are something I just don't have, but
I've done some yards before, so it was pretty easy. But it was about as easy as hole as you could get. It wasn't a very big tree, so.
But what when you had interviews with her, when you were talking candidly, what were the things that you felt she was most passionate about?
Well, I was friends with her during the whole sort of crumbling of MUFON, that issue. And it's interesting because I have no dog in this fight, right? So I'm not a member of MUFON. I have no interest in being a member of MUFON. Every interaction I've ever had with MUFON, except for a few, I'll clarify that a little bit. I did do a talk that was wonderful for Philadelphia MUFON with a friend of mine, Jennifer Stein, and she's very dedicated and very wonderful researcher, and so it was a delight to talk. So that's, I think, where MUFON shines is at the ground floor. Right. I think it gets, and this is just an outsider's perspective. So I think that the higher up the ladder you get, the more political, the more snipey it gets. So she was somewhere near, as a state director, she had a different, view of MUFON. So that was when I knew her. I knew her during that whole thing. And she certainly talked some smack about MUFON, and I was her listening ear for some of that. But there was plenty of other stuff we worked on. So she was very interested in, let me just go through a little checklist, like the MyLab issue. And the sort of, she had a dark view of the abduction phenomenon, which is fine. And I feel like I was very, very trying to stay very nuanced in the middle, and not sort of lead, because it was. I mean, I know what I want it to be. Let me put it that way. I know what I want it to be. I want it to be all love and light and all wonderful and charming and space angels and benevolence and if you cherry pick the data, you can find all that in there. So that's what I wanted, but she wasn't giving me any of that. She was saying, telling stories about, some pretty dark experiences. And some of them were very powerful stories. There's one story I could tell that I don't think, this is coming third hand. Well, she was a direct investigator, so it's coming second hand for me. She told an amazing story about a UFO that landed at the county line between two counties. It was hovering in this field. So basically both police departments got called in, right? So these two cop cars come and pull up. And these cop cars are like, do you see that? And I'm like, yeah, I see that. Do you see that? Yeah, I see that. And then these two cops, one cop in each car start talking. And they both realize that they both share with each other that they're abductees. So Elaine, in her kind of sassy way, she smoked and had kind of a gravelly voice. She was like, that was staged. That was staged for those two cops. And so she had this deeper view of the whole thing. She was very clear, like when things felt like they were staged. She thought there was a theatrical, manipulative aspect to it, which I agree. I think there is a theatrical, manipulative aspect to it. So that's one story. I don't know who the events or the date or any of those cops or anything like that. So I'm not giving away any secrets. But so she would immediately try to look deeper into the issue.
And so do you, because you and I talked on the phone the other day, and it's always great to talk to you, but I was trying to figure out why would anybody want to suppress the information in her files? And I can think of a few things. I mean, she was looking into the tax returns of MUFON, trying to get more transparency. You mentioned the MyLabs thing. What other reasons would there be for people to have a serious need to get a hold of those files?
Well, as far as like cloak and dagger stuff, I'm very cautious, because that's an easy road to go down. You can get kind of siphoned down the rabbit hole and get so paranoid. So I do remember at the time, this was coming on the heels of James Carrion and his relationship with, and his relationship with Robert Bigelow. And I knew she was researching Robert Bigelow, and she had been writing up some reports. And I actually never read them. And that was one of the things that I always kind of pressed her, like, hey, I would love to have read them, but I never did. And the one thing she said, which I thought was interesting, was there are many analogies between Robert Bigelow and Howard Hughes, Las Vegas, aerospace billionaire type things and stuff like that. But she kind of implied a little more than that. Like, there's all kinds of Howard Hughes stuff that he was associated with the government and things like that. So this is just implications she gave me in a conversational way. So I can't speak to any of the validity of those. But she had been writing a few little essays, which I suspect she would have found a way to publish somewhere. She was the founder, along with a handful of other researchers, of JAR, which is the Journal of Abduction Research, which was a tabloid. It was a paper tabloid. Listen, this is the dark ages. It came in piece of paper in an envelope in your mailbox, if you can remember back that far. And so I suspect it may have been put in there, but she wrote a handful of articles there, and I did illustrations for a couple of articles that she had done. So this is exactly what happens. You ask a question, I walk around the block 3 times, and I can't remember what the question was.
I love it. Well, it was just about what would be in her files that people would feel threatened by. I mean, I think she was on, and she was stirring up a lot of things. And
well, she did a lot of research into the Skinwalker Ranch, and I think more through a Bigelow connection. So I don't know a lot. She was doing some research on the Skinwalker Ranch. She was interested in the government involvement in this stuff. So that's as much as I can say, because this is now going back many years, and when I had those conversations with her. And so I have to be very. I mean, I simply can't speak to what may or may not have been in her files, but I know she was a busy, diligent researcher.
And do you think? I mean, what are your fondest memories of her? I mean, you've got digging the hole, but look, what were some of the things that just really? But I mean, what really stood out, like a special moment?
Well, there was a point when I was in Moab, which is a kind of a groovy little tourist town. It's kind of got a hippie vibe in some of the shops. And I went into a little smoothie shop in the morning, and I said, what do you got for extras? They had a little thing on the board, and I just kind of how about bee pollen? I'd never had bee pollen in my life. And actually, that's not true. I had bee pollen and years and years before. So they put it in the smoothie, and they handed it to me, and I drank it down. And then all of a sudden, I'm literally sitting in the restaurant, drinking coffee and having a smoothie. Supposed to be meeting Elaine, I think at 10 o'clock. It must have been about 8 o'clock then. And I didn't feel well all of a sudden. And I started to have an allergic reaction. My lips started to puff up, and I could feel myself starting to itch all over. And I walked out of the little shop, and I actually barfed around the corner right off the sidewalk in Moab, Utah on a Thursday morning or something. And I was one step away from going to the hospital. It's oh God, let me just, and I had done a lot of first aid training. So I was if my airway starts to close up, I got to be ready. So I took a Benadryl. So I did do that, which is what, but when I showed up at her house that morning, I felt terrible. Oh my God, I felt terrible. And I basically laid down on her bathroom floor for about a half hour. And that's when she was very compassionate, right? When I said before, she was kind of tough. She wasn't going to take any nonsense. She recognized I didn't feel well. She let me lie on the floor. And then I got up in about 20 minutes or so, and I sat at the counter at her kitchen table, and we drank some tea, and little by little I felt better, and we had a long, wonderful conversation. And it was interesting in a way, because I felt bad enough that she talked a lot, and I wish I had recorded these conversations, because she was an encyclopedia of this kind of research, so especially of the abduction lore. So and I had been very clear and very open with my experiences with her, and some of the things that felt staged, or some of the things in my experiences that felt orchestrated. She got to hear those stories from me, and then she got to play, she got to analyze them off the cuff, and she was very clear. She said, that's that was staged for you. She was very straight about that kind of thing. So
what do you remember where you were, or what happened when you learned the news that she passed away?
Well, near the end there, I had a handful of conversations with Elaine where she told me straight up she was very sick, and I knew she was sick, and I knew it was cancer, and I knew, and she smoked, and there were, so she was straight with me, and I was and I'll tell you, she did not want sympathy in a kind of cloying way. So and I think she enjoyed talking to me, because we could just get right into it and talk about her research. What's interesting? This is something that's interesting, and I feel bad I never did it, because she wanted to do as nuts and bolts as she was, she would read your astrology chart, which I think is wonderful, right? I mean, here's this person who's completely on the nuts and bolts end of thing. And she did astrology readings. And I kind of called her on it, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. What are you getting all like, that's all like new agey and fluffy. And you make fun of the new age crowd so much. And she was like, nope, there's something to it. So,
wow.
So I never did it. I never had a reading. Oh,
that would have been so cool.
Yeah. You know what she did do one time, which is typical of her. This is a perfect Elaine Douglas story. I had an experience. This is, to tell this story correctly, is so strange. I got up one morning. I thought there was a mosquito in my shirt. It was a wintertime, and there was this consistent buzzing inside my shirt. I thought it was against my skin. It was like right against my chest. And I'd check and I'd look, and there was nothing in there, but it felt like there was buzzing. I had a conversation, to tell this story correctly. There are a handful of synchronicities connected to it. And I talked to a member of MUFON. Well, remain silent. And he was a member of the STAR team. I'll give you that much. And he's a great guy. We had a long conversation. The conversation rolled this way and that way. And he had all these wonderful experiences. He's like, and I said, have you ever had any bad experiences? I asked him. And he said, yeah, one time I was just like sitting there, and all of a sudden I was catapulted in this like dream-like realm, and I was in this cave. And there was a giant lizard in the cave with me. And it was like, there was like a big thing on the ceiling. It was doing mind control. I'm like, wait a minute, wait. Were you in a cave? It's like, I felt like I was in a cave. I could feel the dirt in the cave. I could feel the moisture in the cave, but I was just like transported to this cave, and it lasted a certain number of minutes and felt like he was being tortured. And here's where it gets weird. So this is that morning. I get up, I have this little itch, it feels like there's a mosquito buzzing against my skin. There's nothing there. As soon as he starts telling the story, that little buzzing gets turned on full bore. It feels like a little Barbie taser, right? Like a little Barbie-sized itty-bitty taser got shot into my chest. He tells this whole story. As soon as he's done, he goes, that's the end of the story. And then I was back in my room. Boop. It goes right back to nothing. So this I was plagued with this kind of stuff all the time for a while. So he tells, hey, I've just had great stories. I've had great stories. He tells a scary story. There's like the buzzer goes on. It was totally like weird. It wasn't painful or anything. And I told that story to Elaine Douglas. And I told it in this kind of like, it was an exciting story. I told it, and she said I finished that story, and she said, like, so the guy gets tortured, and you tell me this story in this little childish sing-song way. Click. She hung up the phone on me. Which I loved. I mean, she was right, but it was like, well, yeah, he told this. He was sort of childish and sing-songy about the story too. So,
oh, God bless you. Thank you so much for that. Makes me so happy. You just made my night. And
okay, good. Well, I tried to write a blog post on it, and it was such a strange story that I don't think anyone read it, because it was like, how do you make sense of this? So,
well, we will. We've got to go to break, and I want to thank you so much for being here, and tell everyone about your wonderful books. You've written quite a few. The Messengers, stories from the Messengers, and Hidden Experiences, your blog. And I want to have you back where we could I just need to talk to you. I love talking to you. You're such a positive energy, and I appreciate you sharing those stories about Elaine. So thank you for being here. Next up is my friend, Pat Daniels, and we are going to talk about the last email that was sent by Elaine Douglas and when that was sent, because interestingly enough, it was after she had passed away. So we will be right back and remember Elaine, learn about her as much as you can. We will be back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Toxins are everywhere, from the air we breathe to the food we eat and the water we drink. In a world where 80,000 known toxins and heavy metals threaten our very existence, how are you going to protect yourself and your loved ones? Introducing Pure Body Extra Strength, the world's first colloidal zeolite that helps trap and remove toxins as well as heavy metals from your body that are messing with your memory, clarity, sleep, and focus. Don't just take our word for it, or the testimonials from our thousands of happy customers. Check out the hundreds of articles and case studies on the National Institute of Health website proving unleashing Zeolite's powerful ability to remove toxins. For a limited time, listeners to KCOR will receive 10% off their first order. To get started, go to trypurebody.com and enter promo code RADIO10. Again, that's trypurebody.com. Toxic junk is all around us, but now you can take back control of your health and protect yourself by detoxing with Pure Body Extra Strength. You'll be on your way to sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic. Go to trypurebody.com right now and get started today.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is your captain. I'd like to welcome you on Jackpot Airlines Flight 1610, service to Lost Wages.
They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, apparently, they need a reality check done Vegas style.
Vegas, 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 Vegas.
Tune in Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, for Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Biggest star in the world, bigger than Britney and Christina put together.
If it's happening on the Vegas Strip, you'll know about it here first.
You are a dirty little fun haver.
Join Jessica Johns as she explores and goes behind the scenes of what's hot and what's not. From the best entertainment Vegas has to offer to national celebrity gossip.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Jessica has her finger on the heartbeat of the city, and she's waiting to share it with you. Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns. Wednesday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. She does Vegas right.
Yeah, baby.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Make a note of it.
It's great! Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug's adoption story started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about.
Hello, this is Geraldine Orozco, host of Starseed Awakening Radio, reminding you during this holiday season to connect with that unity consciousness, grounding and owning your space, aligning, manifesting this new year consciously. From my family to yours, happy holidays.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to UFO Classified. I was happy to be here on KCOR. Tonight, I could have been in Oklahoma preserving history for the sake of a really incredible researcher. But unfortunately, I'm not. And the whole body of Elaine Douglas's work, research, will be probably suppressed forever, which is really unfortunate. So I wanted to bring in people that directly knew Elaine, that had experiences to share about her. So if we can't have access to this important information, we can at least understand what an incredibly dedicated human being she was. She was very passionate about alien abduction research and was one of the founders of JAR magazine. She was politically active. She was involved with MUFON for 25 years and was eventually fired from MUFON. She wanted to reform it because she knew that the people involved deserved the best, and I applaud her for her efforts, and I want to continue her work in some regard. I am here now with Pat Daniels, who is a friend of mine, and when I became MUFON State Director a few years ago, I met Pat and was on his radio show Fringe Radio, and he did over 800 interviews with the best people in the field, including Elaine Douglas. Since we're both in the same state, Pat knew Elaine and also received a very strange email a few days after she passed away. But Pat, thank you for coming on the show. You also, I want to just throw this out here. You were the witness to a very important case, which was the American Airlines Flight 434 case that both of us worked on. And that was another great thing for both of us. So welcome to the show, and thank you for sharing what you thought about Elaine and all her spiciness.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I was the messenger on 434. I just happened to be up late working that night and happened to intercept it. I actually have a couple of scanners. You know, I've been a ham radio operator for, going to be almost 40 years now, and I actually have a few scanners that are always running. But this time, I don't listen to them as much, but I have at least digital recording going on. So if they ever get anything weird, I'll be able to live capture it. But thank you for having me on. Yeah, Elaine was I had many hours of conversation with her. Just to give a little background, when we were doing Fringe Radio back in 2013, it's hard to believe it's like 5.5 years ago that she was on the show. I reached out to her. She had a very simple website. I reached out to her and sent her an email, and I said, I would love to have you on the program. And being from, this show originating in Utah, and being able to talk, about local events and local things going on, I thought it would be really, really cool. And I sent her an email, and she replied right back, and she said, we'd love to do your show, but she said, before I decide to do your show, I need to listen to a few of your shows live, and then I also, if you have any recorded shows, which we had several of them at the time, she said, I'd like to be able to delve through that before I commit to the interview, which I thought was good. I know Elaine didn't give out. She didn't do a lot of interviews. She didn't do that. And had a brief email with her, and about a month later, she emailed me back and she said, I like the way you handle yourself. I like that you're very objective on many subjects, open-minded. And she said, I'd love to do the program, but before I do the program, I want to have a conversation with you. And I think a couple of weeks before she was on the show, I think we talked probably upwards of 12 hours, and just an interesting lady, and a brilliant lady. She got her degree from MIT. She was no slouch by any means, and her philosophy on UFO and alien, abduction research, which I thought was interesting, came from really a pure science standpoint. She never had anything happen to her per se. I know a lot of people in the field, they become ufologists or paranormal researchers. While some find it interesting, I think most people, it's triggered by some sort of an event. And with her, she just said, I just think it's really cool, and I want to dig into this. So her credentials, as far as an individual, were just, way up at the top, and very feisty and very to the point. And she loved to talk. And before we had her on the program, again, we talked for many, many hours about a lot of the cases that she had done research on. As she was with MUFON for many, many years, I believe in Washington she was, and then when she came here to Utah, she was. And I could tell that I don't know the whole story. She said that she had, done quite a bit of research. She had put a lot of effort into the organization, and then just literally within an afternoon, it was all over, and didn't give me a lot of details. But I think she was not only upset, but I think hurt and insulted, considering, like so many people, they, put your own time, your own money, your own efforts into this with not a lot of rewards outside of rewards of finding out information and helping other people out. So I think she was really taken back by what happened. But it was just interesting to talk with her about. She was just so blunt about so many things. And in the interview that I did with her, and I think the second hour, we talked about abductions, and she was very forthcoming as far as all the research that she had done. Anybody that had an abduction experience, there was nothing good about it. There was absolutely nothing good about it at all that came out of it. And she was really clear about that. And again, had a lot of research and had done so many interviews and did a lot of analyzing of all the information that she collected. So she was a boots to the ground type of investigator. Again, nothing really drove her as far as a past experience, but was just the pure science of finding everything out. And, again, a nice lady, and too bad that she left us at a very young age.
She did. And I mean, to hear that she ended up passing away and couldn't afford health care and get treatment for her cancer. I mean, it's very, heartbreaking. And I think for me, just to learn about her and to understand that she didn't have any living heirs and that she really was passionate about this, I always felt, especially when I took over as state director, that I needed to preserve her work and I needed to carry it forward. And I believe very fully that she was on to a lot of different things. And I definitely think that some of the information that she had ruffled people. And I think, there were some reasons why her information would be, kind of disappearing.
Well, and when you look at it, Erica, she did some things. Ufology has really, as you know, it's really kind of run the gamut. And when she was really when she was a force to be reckoned with her research, way back when. I mean, she went and did a march on Washington right in front of the White House, trying to I guess we'll call it the early days of disclosure. And going out there and I don't want to say picketing, but at least letting people know that, we've got to stop this secrecy. It made some pretty bold statements in some pretty bold places. Nowadays, I think that, I think with ufology, there's so many different researchers, there's so many different programs. Everybody has a smartphone that has a pretty decent camera in it. We're getting more and more stuff, but at that time in the early 90s, a lot of that didn't exist. And I think ufology was really kind of a taboo subject, if you will. And she went out and, she went right to Washington with it, right to the White House with it. I remember reading an article, I think it was mid or late March of 92, if I'm not mistaken, when they marched right there at the White House. So she really believed in her work, and she really believed in the research, and really believed that people needed to know about what was going on. And again, a very, very bold maneuver, and a very maybe bold isn't the right word, but just very convincing. She just was very passionate. Passionate is, I guess, would be the right word for it, and didn't let anything stand in her way. So again, just an amazing person that had a lot of drive, and nothing got in her way.
And so what, with regard, since we're both, here in Utah, I mean, I know, that this is an important state for a lot of different reasons, Skinwalker being one of the many, but for some reason, MUFON seems almost like a black hole. I know since I've been putting together my archive and trying to get research and pulling things together for one location where Utah researchers can have access to that and try to make a difference, it has been close to impossible to find anything. And I think some of that has to do with the military here. Some of that has to do with maybe the culture. I think there are a lot of different factors. But what do you think about, what struck you about Elaine's work with Utah particularly?
Well, I think she was on to quite a bit of stuff. As you mentioned, we have a lot. I mean, we have a lot of things here. We have Skinwalker Ranch, which obviously, Bigelow purchased, and I believe there was definitely ties to maybe military or government research that was going on down there. Right on the other side, south of us here is Area 51, and the place that a lot of people don't talk about, but I think is maybe even crazier than Area 51 is Dugway Proving Grounds. They've got runways out there that are twice as long as Groom Lake. So I think we're in kind of a, when you go back to the days of the of the atomic bomb, before the atomic bomb was dropped. Look at all the stuff that went on at the Wendover Airport, at that air base out there. They were flying practice runs with the with the B-29s, and you can go out there and see where they loaded the bomb, the bombs and stuff like that. I think everybody way back when thought, well, Utah's in the middle of nowhere. Who the heck is even going to wander out there? And I think some of that even, has kind of carried forth. I think there's a lot of, I don't know if you want to call them secret areas, but out in the middle of nowhere areas. And she was poking around into a lot of stuff. And I think she probably overturned quite a few rocks and probably pulled up a lot of information that maybe some people didn't want to have that information get out, or wanted to, play it as the ace card in their pocket. I don't know, but I know that we have a lot of strange things that happen out here, without a doubt, especially in the Uinta Basin. And maybe she had some stuff there that there was interested parties that didn't need to have that information get out, or not let the general public know about it. I just don't know. I really don't. But I know she was sure passionate about everything that happened over here.
Well, and that is the thing. When the brief, portion of her files, a small portion of her files were available online. I mean, she did have pretty meticulous files on different individuals involved with things, and Bigelow and different people at MUFON that she had profiled and had been documenting email exchanges with. And, then also you had the Dugway and Hill Air Force Base and things like that. And so there were definitely things she was looking into, and all of that could have contributed to what's taking place now. I don't know. But it's sad to me that somebody could really just want to know the answers, and then at every turn it would seem be stifled. And I think when we had a conversation that you kind of mentioned that she was feeling discouraged about some of that she kept trying to find answers within MUFON, and that wasn't really happening, and that frustrated her.
I think she was looking for support. One thing she did say to me, again, being that she was a very, I guess blunt would be the right word. She was very blunt about things. She didn't sugarcoat anything. And something that she did say, as far as research goes, and again, I'm not a ufologist. I've done, I've considered myself a researcher on people that dig into these subjects, whether it's ufology or paranormal or what have you. But one thing she talked about that she said kind of summed it all up for her is she said she felt like she was almost like a private investigator working on a murder case, and or on a crime, and had a lot of effort and emotions put into it. And you turn all that information over to the police chief, with all the work you've done, and you find out that the criminal is actually a cop, and how you took all this work and research and all these leads and stuff and ended up bringing them somewhere that you probably shouldn't have brought them, was kind of her analogy, which made sense to me. It was like, wow, yeah, do all the work and put all the effort in, put all your emotional effort into it, and you bring it somewhere, and the problem, you're bringing it right to the problem itself. And I don't know if that was in reference to MUFON or other organizations, but she just said that it was tough. It was really tough to invest that much time and effort into things and kind of bring it somewhere where it would either go nowhere or go in the wrong direction.
And yeah, it's got to be hard. And I, in a bigger context, it's like I look at some of the other researchers that aren't involved with MUFON, and I mean, it's the same thing. You get so frustrated in this field, and it's like it's the land of smoke and mirrors, and who knows what information is going where, and who you can trust. And I mean, it's a really difficult thing. But for me, and I'm sure Elaine probably felt the same way, there have to be we have to have accountability and transparency, and some of us have to be able to work together to better the field, even if we have all of these obstacles thrown at us.
Yeah, I was listening. Since I stepped away from the program, I honestly have kind of just stepped away from the whole subject in general. But some programs I've listened to over the past few weeks, Kevin Randall, as a matter of fact, I listened to an interview that he did not too long ago that talked about MUFON, and about some of these inner circles. And it was an hour-long show, and it was pretty eye-opening from somebody who's involved with different people in different organizations. And I know there's more organizations than just MUFON, and there's a lot of good people there too. And of course, there's two sides to every story, as I've always said. But it's interesting how we're starting to hear, at least I heard, through a few different interviews from a few different people, how there's problems developing. And it's tough because a lot of these organizations are made up of all volunteer work, as you know that yourself. It's your own time, your own money, everything. And then, you'd figure there would be a little more recognition of that, or at least the respect of the work that's brought. That's kind of a sad state of affairs. Hopefully that'll get straightened out. But it's something that, it's something that just kind of hearing, across the board in many different circles that there's some issues going on, and hopefully they can work those issues out and straighten some things out, and that'll build confidence in people and confidence in the organization. But I guess we keep plugging along when you have the passion for it, as you have.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing is, I absolutely know that there are incredible people involved in the organization. And a lot of them I've had on my show repeatedly because I just respect them and think the world of them. And I believe that they deserve the best. And I'm sure that Elaine also felt that way as well. And I'm like any organization or any group of people, their egos and insecurities and game playing, and then you throw in the aspect that some of this is manipulated, I'm sure, by the government, which Elaine strongly felt that was taking place, and her suspicions came to pass, as we all know that Bigelow was involved with receiving money from the government. But so it's a very difficult thing. And I want to talk about, before I let you go so you can go to your Christmas party, I want to talk about that email that you got from Elaine.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. She communicated. I wish I actually had the original email. I'll have to look on a couple other laptops that I've accumulated over the years. But it was interesting because I had heard about her passing, and then believe it or not, it was 2 days after she passed, I received this email from her. Now, again, we can look at both sides of the fence. We could say, well, it was, hey, maybe that's what it was all about, and she made it to the other side. But her email was about trying to get a copy of notes and a copy of the show that we did, and wanted to know if she could get a copy of that archive. And I could tell by the language, which was quite graphic in the email, that she wasn't feeling good. She indicated in there that, she was in her last days and last hours, and could I find a way to get that to her? And I actually replied to it. And when I replied to it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is 2 days ago. This is 2 days after she passed. So, it was pretty interesting. Maybe she ended up crossing over and finding out. Maybe she knows all the answers now. I don't know, but it was surely interesting to get that a couple of days after she was gone. And it was her in her own words. It wasn't something that was staged by anybody. You could just tell it had Elaine's tone, which was a very interesting tone. And again, someone that needed to be respected. I thought it was interesting. I'll have to look around and see if I can find it somewhere else. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of my emails, but I thought, well, hopefully you found the answer.
Didn't she? From my recollection, she said, didn't she say that she was cold?
I believe so. Yeah, I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I just know it was full of expletives.
And saying a couple lines that didn't make any sense.
Didn't make any sense. That she was in pain. She was in terrible pain. And it didn't make a lot of sense. I'll find it. I know I've got it somewhere. I know that I saved it somewhere. I just don't know where. I couldn't find it today. But again, it was interesting that it was here a couple of days. It appeared a couple of days after 2 days after she passed, which I thought, well, that's kind of strange. How could I have gotten this then? But I did.
That's so interesting. I wish that I get an email from her. I wish she could tell me where to go and how to continue on with her work, because like I said, that's just been a passion for me, and I think that she was a force to be reckoned with. And there's got to be something about the women here in Utah, because clearly we like to stir up trouble.
Well, you do outstanding work in some of the cases that you've taken, and I mean, you've done cutting edge work, and don't give up. And you know, I know the passion that you have about this, and I think at the end of the day, the heck with any organization, you just plow ahead, and the people that care, they're going to be there to support you and stand behind you, and the people that don't, well, they're going to do their own thing. But as long as you can look in the mirror and say, hey, I did the best I could, that's all that really counts.
Well, and I have to say that the biggest highlight for me was the case that we worked on, your case, and it was such a privilege to be a part of that. And I really hope that people will learn more about the American Airlines Flight 434 case. According to Bill Puckett, who did the radar and also worked on Stevensville, that our case, this American 434, was a bigger radar case than Stevensville. And that says something, and most people haven't even heard about it. So definitely thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you. I hope you'll be here when Nick Redfern comes up to do his lecture. And just thank you. I know that'd be great. And thank you, Pat. I really do think the world of you. I'm happy to know you, and I'm happy to know that there are such great people here in Utah. Thank you.
Well, I feel the same way. And again, thank you for all that you do, and just keep forging ahead, and just keep trucking into the night.
You know it. I am Erica Lukes, and that was Pat Daniels. I'm going to share some links from his shows. He's a great radio show host. Fringe Radio, for some of you, I'm sure you've listened to it. Wonderful interviews, and I appreciate that. In the next hour, I have got Ruben Uriarte, one of my dear friends, coming on, and then also Ron Johnson, who knew Elaine. He is a Utah native and has had very profound abduction experiences, encounters, and Elaine knew him through all of that. So it'll be a great night remembering Elaine Douglas, and stick around because the best is yet to come.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. I am here tonight doing a show that is very special for me. I would have been on my way to Oklahoma and had made the preparations to do so, to bring back the Elaine Douglas files to Utah. and get them archived and preserved for people to learn from. But unfortunately, my efforts were thwarted because the person that has the files decided through some, I don't know what reason you could possibly give, but to give them to the executive director of MUFON, Jan Harzan. I sent an email explaining what had taken place and the fact that I had obtained funding from an important person who is helping with research, and that it was in order to obtain these files, and neither Harzan or Carlson seemed to care about this. I also sent a letter to the MUFON board of directors asking them to explain to me why an executive director could step in and negate a deal of going to help preserve the history of Utah and ufology, and I still have no answer, which is definitely not shocking for the MUFON board of directors. They seem to like to pretend when things don't happen, or when things happen, they can just look the other way, and eventually the storm will die down. I think now there's so many questions about MUFON and the way it operates and chooses to discourage people like Elaine Douglas from trying to make reforms and things. I think it's interesting. So I will keep you posted. I definitely have obtained legal counsel, and we'll see what happens with these files. Let's hope they get back to a good place where they won't be destroyed. My guest now is Ron Johnson, and I've known Ron for a few years. He has had some remarkable experiences here in Utah, and he knew Elaine and back in the day. And so, Ron, thank you for being here. Your story will get you on the show. I'm excited to see you in a couple weeks so I can sit down and interview you and get all of your information just down on record. But how did you first meet Elaine?
I first met her. She called me, and I guess Marley Spinlove, the assistant director at the time, told her about my experiences and gave her my phone number. And she called me up, and we had a nice chat for almost 3 hours. And it was on the phone.
Wow. And so what were your first thoughts about her?
My first thoughts, I've always wanted to meet her, and I never really did get to meet her other than doing interviews on the phone. By the time I finally got ready to go down to Moab where she lived, it was too late. She had passed away. And I believe it was Mike Clellan was the last person to probably interview her.
Yes, and I love Mike. He was on talking about some of his experiences with her. And I know also another person here in Utah, Dean Treeley, who I'm sure you know. He's an investigator here. And the person that was with Elaine a couple weeks before she passed away, and Elaine specifically asked him to take her files, and he's such a kind person. He didn't want to take the files, and she told him that she left explicit instructions giving him the files, which I don't know what happened to that, but that was interesting. But I'm sure you've met Dean, right?
One time, but that was a long time ago.
He's a great guy. Well, I think both of you were at my house when Meryl Cook came up, and we were doing a MUFON get together and things. That was fun.
Yeah, I remember that. I sure enjoyed that day.
That was a great day. And so for people that aren't familiar with what you have been through, give us the background on how your sightings, what your experiences, what first happened to you. And then I will tell people, this will show why Elaine was so supportive and protective of witnesses who've had experiences.
Yeah, my first experience was in Southern California at my uncle's horse ranch just outside of Riverside. That one was just basically an encounter with a non-human being that stood about 8 foot tall one night after I went to bed. Then in 1973, I moved to Grand Teton National Park and had a summer job up there and had an encounter just right outside of Randolph, Utah. And everything was pretty quiet after that for, quite a few years. And then right in 1997, I moved to Hawaii and had an encounter there. Actually, I had 2 encounters there and a UFO sighting. And but the main sightings that I've had, or encounters that I've had, the ones that were more spiritual in nature, started in 2008 and lasted until about the end of 2009. But it's been a lifelong, I won't say a problem. It was a problem at first, but like I said, the later encounters I had were actually more positive. And that's just a basic synopsis of it.
And I've spoken with you. I have photos that you gave me a long time ago at a MUFON meeting of some of the marks on your clothing, and I know how deeply affected you have been. This has been very perplexing and frightening. And we were talking before the show about some of the strange goings-ons with unmarked cars and helicopters and all of these things that have been following you around, and that's not uncommon for people that have had experiences like you. And so when you found Elaine, or you found that group of people, I'm sure that must have been a nice support system for you.
It was. It was actually in 1997 when my Hawaii encounter. I had enough, and I wanted to know what was going on. I bought the first book I bought to kind of research this for me was Bud Hopkins' Missing Time. And I actually wrote him 3 letters, but I've never sent them to him.
That's so sad. I remember being 16 years old and picking up Intruders and just thinking, okay, and Communion. Both of those books were really pivotal to me in my teenage years, and it was interesting. But how did you figure out where you needed to go to find support?
Well, the first thing I did is excuse me. Sorry. The first thing I did is I started to, I got on the computer and started looking for anything, groups, UFO clubs, anything that I could get, my foot into to try to find out what was going on with me. And the first person that I run across was Dave Rosenfeld. And through him, I met Marley Spinlove, and through Marley, I met Elaine Douglas. And like I say, Elaine Douglas called me one day, and we had a 3-hour chat. I told her basically everything that I just told you, but in a lot more detail. And she was really there for me. she would call me quite often, asking me how I was doing, asking me questions, and then wanting, certain details that I would give her. And we got to be pretty good friends. But like I said, I never met her personally. It was always over the phone.
But you told me that she sent you a book every Christmas with a personal card.
Yes, she would send me a Christmas card every year and a book. And the one book she sent me was Diary of an Abduction. It was about a female scientist that was having abduction phenomena, and it was really an exciting. It's a good book. It's a good one to read.
So did you were there when all of the things went down with Marlee and Elaine and kind of some of that explosion. What can you tell us what happened with all of that, or give us some insight? Because I think I care and respect so much both of them, but there were some interesting dynamics.
Yeah, there. How it started was that I do paranormal investigations. I do ghost hunting. I go out looking for Bigfoot and stuff like that. And Marlee would get UFO reports from Elaine Douglas. Elaine Douglas would send them to Marlee, and then Marlee would send them to me and some other people in the group that was investigating. And apparently, I guess MUFON didn't like that. And that's when things started happening, and that's when Marlee got fired and Elaine was fired.
See, and that's so interesting because it just seems out of, I don't know, the whole thing is odd. and I know that when I took over and I tried to reestablish the chapter, it was just, there was so much tension on both sides. Everybody had their stories. And I think the bigger picture, other than the dynamics here, was the fact that there were several people that were basically pushed out of their volunteer jobs at the end of the day. And, they were women.
Yeah, it was, it really made me mad because I had been a member of MUFON for quite a few years. And I was trying to get some of the information I needed from them, but I was having a tough time doing it. It's like they didn't really want to talk too much to me. So I started going out on my own. And apparently, I guess I went out on a limb. And this happened. And because of this, I was at an IUFOC conference in Laughlin, and MUFON had a booth there. And I was telling them that I was a member, from Utah, that I was really disgusted with how they treated Marlee and Elaine. And I told them I wasn't going to renew it. And now they've sent me a membership, when I've never even asked for one. And I've still got it. So anyways, there's a lot of politics going on there in that organization.
Do you feel, because, I will always say I care and support the individuals, and certain chapters, I think they're doing incredible work. I think the problem lies with headquarters. Do you think that, as Elaine guessed and exposed, that there was interference from the government, or there were contractors that were buying the data without the knowledge of the witness, and other things that were taking place? Case files would end up gone. And I witnessed that as well when I was state director and I was looking for specific cases. I would get in there and, the Chris Bledsoe case, which was a really important abduction case, I noticed that there were only 2 paragraphs on the whole case. They spent 6 months there, collected all of this trace evidence. The show was on TV, which they ended up discrediting his family on TV, all sorts of these interesting things, but yet where did the case go? And Elaine was asking those questions and got the runaround from people. I know that there have been other people that have been asking, where are these important cases going? And on one interview, Elaine mentioned the fact that there were people during the Bigelow era who would, man the phone lines, 24 hours a day, and they would see these cases get entered into the CMS, and the next day they were gone. So, do you have any thoughts or feelings about that, especially because you've had such profound experiences that must have happened? Have you had any experience with that?
Yeah, Elaine told me also, not just the cases that she was handing down, our channel from Utah, but the bigger cases, like she said, Bledsoe, or I don't know if I pronounced that right or not.
Yeah, Bledsoe, yep.
Yeah, a lot of the bigger cases, she told me that there was a lot of siphoning off by Bigelow and other people. And so I didn't really want to get into this, but she was revealing stuff to me that I was just, shocked about.
And I think that's the thing, for both of us. I got into this feeling like, hey, we're all in this together to find the truth out. And here's an organization of happy people that are, volunteering time and we should all be working towards a common goal. And it's like, whoa. I had that lesson handed to me pretty quickly. And it was really disheartening because I believed in the greater good, and I believed that this organization could be the most important organization on the planet. And I still wonder whether it's, it has to be, there has to be some sort of influence from the intelligence community. Also, there are, egos and dysfunctional people who who like to get in there and do all of this. But it's I think for me, to listen to Elaine's interviews and to hear in her voice how deeply concerned she was that this data, this personal data, was being sold, and that she felt that if the government got a hold of it, that they could be using this to kind of stalk or maybe use mind control on the abductees.
Possible. Darn phone's acting up. But can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
Oh, okay. This phone is beeping and doing all kinds of stuff. Okay. Yeah, she told me that there was a lot of siphoning off. They were accusing her of selling stuff to, other researchers, other organizations and stuff. And she was really, really heartbroken over it. And if you ever knew Elaine, she was a very, very vocal person. And she would just, she would unload on me, verbally about this. And, but yeah, there was a lot of shenanigans going on there, according to Elaine. But they were, blaming her for most everything, from the siphoning and selling off of information and reports and stuff.
And do you know, I mean, do you know any more about some of the cases that she was accused of siphoning off, or who was involved in that? I know that was a long time ago, but...
Oh, gosh. That was a long time ago. She was... I can't remember any of the names that she mentioned. I haven't really thought about it in a long time. There's probably other people out there that know more than I do about it. I'm probably the low man on the totem pole there.
No, but I mean, it's good though, because she was talking to different people about this. I mean, she was very vocal, like you said, like everyone has said, she was passionate. And when these things started to happen, I think she reached out to people, and she tried to honestly do the best that she could to dig into this and create a positive change, not only for the witnesses and experiencers, but for, the people that were volunteering, actually not volunteering, paying to be in an organization where a handful of people ended up profiting.
Yeah, she wanted to stop it. That's for sure. Yeah, she was they used her. I think they used her as a scapegoat.
Right.
Honestly.
Right. And we're going to go to break, and I would love for you to stick around, because I want people to understand the importance of what you have dealt with. So if you don't mind, I would love that. I'm Erica Lukes here. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
This is Willie Miranda, host of the Paradigm Matrix, and I'd like to wish everyone out there a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
"1 Million Miles Till Midnight." A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint, and the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
"'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring. Why?
Anyone?
Because they were huddled around the fire, listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network, home for the holiday special.
Brilliant!
Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, Christmas Eve, it's commercial-free holiday music.
Yes, this Christmas music. It's joyful and triumphant.
Our gift to you from the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. In an out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Ho, 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 ho. This is Tim Beckley, co-host of Exploring the Bizarre on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. And happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and a mighty good New Year to all of us here, to all of you there.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the last segment of UFO Classified, and this has been an incredible evening. Mike Cleland, who is an author, a great researcher and friend, was on, and Pat Daniels. We had a big case together. He has been very pivotal here in Utah. And now Ron Johnson, who has had experiences for his whole life. And I've known Ron through the years, and I can't wait to see him again in a couple weeks. But we're talking about the life and times of Elaine Douglas and some of her experiences and just these little glimpses of her as a person. She was spicy. She was dedicated. You either liked her or you didn't, and there wasn't a lot of reservation there. She talked like a truck driver from all accounts, and God bless her. I think that she had a lot to say, and she was educated. She understood that there was much more to this, and she took the time to dig into it. As for the past few weeks, I've been engaged with trying to get out to Oklahoma and get her files, get them back here, scanned, preserved, but MUFON has stepped in to take them over. And I'm sure if Elaine knew that MUFON, the organization that discredited her after 25 years of work, was taking her files and in all likelihood putting them in a place where they're either destroyed or in a black hole, I am sure that she would have something to say about that. And I wanted to say that it is really unfortunate that a person with no living heirs, a person that cared so passionately about this subject and did enough research that it filled 12 banker boxes, that information can be taken by an organization, a non-for-profit, mind you, who supposedly is working for the benefit of mankind, and this kind of dirty behavior takes place. Elaine, and I've got documents in my hands. In fact, I was speaking at a MUFON conference for another state chapter, and this was after I resigned and after I became pretty vocal about what was going on. I was handed a whole stack of papers, of exchanges, emails from Elaine Douglas, emails from other people in the Reformation process, the James Carry-On days, all of these things. And a lot of these things are very interesting, specifically with regards to the taxes and what non-for-profits have to do. This will be interesting, and I think the thing that's really, really sad is the more MUFON directors like Jan Harzan behave this way, the more it just highlights the fact that they are definitely up to things that aren't for the benefit of mankind. If they would have been transparent or assisted me as a researcher or the other people researching here in Utah, I think that things would have gone much better for them, but I guess they will learn that you don't behave like this and that the right thing will be done, and there are people out there who will hold them accountable for behavior like this. On that note, I am back with Ron Johnson, who lives here in Utah and has had a lifetime full of experiences, very interesting experiences. I was talking to him earlier today, and he was mentioning some of the black unmarked vehicles that he sees around his property, some of the very bizarre events that remind me of things that I've had happen at conferences. And Ron was also talking about some of the experiences that he had with Elaine Douglas. And Ron, I mean, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to hang out with you again and just learn from you, because you've been so brave through all of this and you've had so much to endure.
Yeah, it's a lot. Experiences really get put through the grindstone, as you would know.
And so when you started having these experiences, like Elaine, I know that she felt maybe towards the end of her life, or when she really started to take MUFON on, that she was being intimidated or harassed or gang stalked or some of these things. I mean, do you ever recall any dialogue that you had with her where she might have felt that way?
Yeah. That first interview, well, not the first one, the second interview I had with her for JAR magazine that she did, she was somewhat emotional about all this that was happening to her. And she was actually fearing for her safety, I thought, the way she was talking. So, but like I say, she didn't reveal a lot to me. This is just a feeling I got from the way she was talking to me.
And I mean, I know that she had, and Mike has talked about this, she had a very dark view about abductions and some of the things that were taking place. And I know that as a researcher, I don't necessarily agree with some of the things that the roads that she was going down. And I think everybody has differing opinions, but I think there was I think that she did enough research and did enough digging that there was something there that concerned her, and rightly so.
Yeah, she was quite knowledgeable, on the subject, and I spent a lot of time with her on the phone about my experiences, my negative experiences in California that encountered. I don't know if I should say this on the radio or not, but had sexual encounters with it, and with the ETs, and she would just get violently mad and just start ranting to me that they don't have no right doing that. And there was other times that she had called, and we would just do little chats, and the subject would always come up, and she would get somewhat emotional about it. But there towards the end, before she died, the last time I talked to her on the phone, she was quite upset with it, and she was worried about Marley, things happening to her. But I haven't really talked to Marley about anything. Elaine's the only one that I've ever talked to about
it. That's interesting, and I can't wait for you and Nick and Marlee to sit in a room and talk about some of this, because I think that'll be really, really good. And we have really incredible people here in Utah, and most people don't know about these stories. And I look forward to sharing them and continuing the research. And I just think that you are a very brave person to have gone through all of this and to have tried to look for answers and find support. And sometimes that is difficult, obviously, as we both know.
Yeah, it's tough to do. And I'll tell you, Elaine was a big help. She really was. She pointed me in the right direction. She told me who to contact, and I really appreciate what she has done. And I really loved her as a person. She was great.
And I think that I can tell from, I mean, obviously if somebody's sending you a Christmas card and a book, I mean, it's like they care about you, and I think that's a really admirable quality. And a lot of times, when I look at like the Chris Bledsoe case, and I see that these people came in and basically used his family for 6 months, and then when he was really looking for help because he was going through this process and he didn't understand it and nobody was there, I mean, that seems to be typical. And then you look at Elaine, who is reaching out to you and just letting you know in some small way that she cares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was good for that.
So how many people, when Elaine was state director, how many people were in the chapter?
Ooh, let's see. I think there was, back then, let's see, there was probably a couple dozen people in the chapter. Not everybody would show up every meeting, but I think all in all, there was about 2 dozen.
And what were the age ranges?
Usually between, I'm just guessing here, probably between 50 and maybe 60, 65.
And it's interesting because, I mean, I've just had, meetings. You've been to the meetings. I know Marlee has carried on those meetings, and bless her, it's just been so cool. But there's so many people out there that are just looking for a community or a safe place to talk about their experiences. And that is one thing that I have to say I appreciate about some of the MUFON state directors, is they have made this place, they've made their states or their chapters available for creating security. And that's a beautiful thing. And I love that, and I will always support that. But then there's the other side of the coin, where you've got people entering data into the database, and that's getting sold to unknown parties. So, I mean, what, like, if you were to report this again, how would you go about that, or would you report it, your sightings and experiences?
I don't know. With the experiences I've had trying to get information, trying to reach out, I don't know. Travis Walton told me once, I asked him, I said, would you ever, report your encounters? And he told me that I would probably keep quiet about it second time. And, and I've been thinking like that too myself, but actually here lately, I've been, becoming more positive about it. And actually getting better results now than what I was back then. The group that Marlee has now is just fantastic. The people are so positive. They help you. They don't just shine you off. They're there for you, and I really appreciate that out of a group.
And I will say, when and this has been almost a decade ago, I remember going to a meeting that Marlee had, and it was funny because Dave Rosenfeld and Brian Burns were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they were talking about Skinwalker Ranch and some of the sightings they'd had, and I was just sitting there like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, it was incredible. And then to see the difference in ages of all the people that were there and backgrounds and things like that, and to have known Marlee through the years and all of you, and to see how much of a struggle it is to keep meetings together. And I had mentioned to you on the break, I was actually with Marlee a couple days ago, and I took a really, really beautiful photo of her, which just captures her. And I love that. And I said, I've got to interview you. I want to make sure that I'm, that people understand you. Nope. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
I tried to talk her in. She won't do it.
I have powers of persuasion, and I'm hoping that will happen, because she has done a lot, and she's like, that's not why I'm here. I'm here just to provide support. And I love that. There's so many people like that out there, and they're these unsung heroes or people that are getting files of researchers and trying to preserve history, like my two favorites, Barry Greenwood and Jan Aldrich. I mean, there's so many brave human beings in this field, and I love that. And there are people like us that will work in this field with integrity and do what we can to find answers. And I'm excited to see you.
I'm looking forward to it.
I know that'll be fun. And so, have you had any experiences lately?
Oh, yes.
Okay, just give us a little bit of snippet about that one.
What's that? Oh,
just,
little snippet?
Yeah, just tell us, what's happened.
My encounters that I've had, in 2008 through 2009, a lot of them had where I was sitting in a chair and they were forcing me to watch these symbols. And over the last year, I've been meditating, trying to find out the meaning of these symbols. And so I kind of give up on it, thinking that, nothing was going to happen. And here, about a week ago, I started, as soon as I would get into bed, and these darn symbols would start appearing in my mind. And I mean, they were very vivid, very clear. And then 2 days later, same thing. They started appearing. They lasted for about maybe, a minute or two, and they would change to a different symbol about every half a second. And last night had the same thing happen, except this time they were in color. And but it only lasted about a minute. And this went on and on and on and on. And the very last picture that came through my mind was a picture of a craft. It was the classic saucer shape with the dome on top. And in 2009, when I went to the IUFOC conference in Laughlin, there was I was going down Highway 89 by Cameron, Arizona, near the Hopi Indian Reservation. And I had a UFO sighting right there. And it was the same exact craft that I saw in my mind the other night. It's the physical abductions are pretty much gone now. The last one I had was in 2000, towards the end of 2009. And things for me are becoming more spiritual in nature. They're more, as Grant Cameron would say, they're more conscious type encounters. But yeah, things are still happening for me, but in a different way.
Isn't that interesting? As your experiences progress, and it's like whether you meet, for me, when I have an experience, it's like one day I think this, and the next day I think that, and then, I go back and forth on all of this. But for me, at the end of the day, I'm so blessed that this has been in my life, because it has been a trip, and I have learned a great deal, not only about myself, but about human nature, about the environment, about all of these things. And I don't know. I really do feel lucky. And I know Elaine Douglas probably would think that it wasn't a good thing to have these experiences. Some people wouldn't, but so at the end of the day, what do you think, and what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my, like I say, at first they were negative contacts that I had, and they've been slowly changing into a more positive type encounter. But besides the encounter changing, I was changing. I'm becoming more aware consciously of different things, how people feel. And before, I used to be a real cranky person. And I have almost I still have my cranky moments, but I'm more aware of other people's feelings. I'm trying my best to cut out animal products, food, hamburger, meat, stuff like that. Becoming more vegetarian. I'm slowly getting there. I'm still working on that, but all in all, it's changing my whole life. It really is.
That's amazing. And I like I said, I'm so excited to talk to you and to sit down and interview you and learn as much as I can, because you are the reason that Elaine Douglas did what she did. And she cared and she supported people. And I'm just messaging Ruben Uriarte, and he thought the world of her as well, and mentioned that she did an assessment of the crash retrieval team that removed the saucer from the crash site with regard to a book that both he and Noe Torres did about Mexico's Roswell. And so I will get Ruben on there on the show soon. And Ron, thank you so much for being here, and all of you, thank you for listening tonight. I definitely think that it is a good time to maybe write letters to the MUFON board of directors, or let your feelings be known. I definitely wouldn't send them to the executive director, because there might not be any response there, but this subject is important. Preserving history is important, and the fact that 25 years worth of Elaine's work is going to be lost now is absolutely deplorable. And in my opinion, organizations who are supposed to be operating above the board with transparency, non-for-profits nonetheless, and organizations who are supposed to be supporting witnesses and aiding humanity, they have an obligation. And when they don't live up to that obligation, we as people that pay for memberships, or we as people that are in the UFO community want to make a difference, we have an obligation to call them on the carpet for their unethical, at the very least, behavior. I am Erica Lukes. I'm going to be here next week, and it will be another mind-blowing interview. I will be talking with somebody about the life of Dr. John Mack and some of the interference that he incurred. And make sure you go to UFOclassified.com. I'm posting video interviews and a lot of information there. Also, visit Barry Greenwood's websites. It's greenwoodarchives.com and also project1947.com. All of these people are such great resources. And remember that when you look back historically, there are patterns here, patterns of groups being infiltrated by intelligence, patterns of egomaniacs who have alternative agendas taking hold of the field and all of these things. And so it's up to all of us to work together to find people with integrity, to demand professional standards. With all of this, the subject should be taken seriously. And if I have anything to say about it, it will be America Lukes. I'll see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.